This injury turned out to be something much more serious than we thought it was going to be. When you look at, he's only played in 19 games. He missed 23 games. So he needs to get back on the court, and you got to count the time that he missed. Obviously, he's been very efficient in the games that he's played, but you got to get him back on the court, get in some basketball shape, really push his body, because if you're trying to make a deep run into the playoffs and obviously win the NBA title, you're going to have to be healthy. So we need Durant to be on the floor. I think Harden obviously is going to take some time off. He's been the one durable guy that they had all season. So this is not going to hurt them. I think eventually the Brooklyn Nets, probably the last 8 to 10 games, they need to be at home and start to get some game continuity on the floor together. So if I'm Steve Nash and I'm looking at this, I want to be with about 10 games to go. I want to have a full roster so I can try different lineups. I can try see who's going to be better, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. You can't continue to keep playing with guys being injured if you want to make a deep run. So I think they're looking at the health part, but those last 10 games, I want to be 100%. But it's great to see Kevin Durant back on the floor. We've missed him a lot this season.
Yeah, well, man, it's hard to be excited because the only exciting thing around this team is them doing it together. Those three playing together and doing what everyone said they couldn't do. Win a championship with a sensitive Kevin Durant, with a ball-dominant, no defense playing James Harden, and an unpredictable, earth is flat Kyrie Irving. Like, that's the excitement, is them being able to do what people said they couldn't do. Like, this James Harden injury, it can be a big thing because it's nagging. You know that. There's some injuries for us athletes where it's just nagging. Soft tissue, a quad, a hammy, something like that, a high ankle sprain or just an ankle sprain. It knocks you off your pivot. It knocks you off your entire game, and you're not who you want to be out there. So James Harden yesterday, Steve Nash came out and said, well, the images are clean. And now, a day later, after he only played 4 minutes against the Nets, pulled himself out, now they're saying there's a strain. Well, what type of strain? Is this a grade 1? Is this a grade 2? They're saying they're going to reevaluate in 10 days. This could be a big deal. We just saw how a hamstring or a calf knocked Kevin Durant out for how long? So, look. It's terrible. It's terrible right now because they're right now battling for the number 1 seed in the East, and they are the team to beat, and they've been playing sensational with or without certain guys as far as their big three. So we want to see them all together so they can definitely dominate and go into the playoffs at full capacity.
Well, listen, I'm excited to see Durant back on the court because watching Kevin Durant play basketball is one of the greatest experiences for any sports fan that cares about basketball. And there was concern like, oh, after the Achilles, is he going to be the same guy? Yeah, he was the same guy. He was 29 a game, super efficient, and he was playing at an MVP level before he missed a couple months, and people kind of forgot about it. But the two words that matter, Wilds, are chemistry and sacrifice. And we are not getting to see how either of those is going to play out. Chemistry, they've got to be on the court together, and now they won't be able to be for at least another 10 days, probably another 2-3 weeks, and then we'll see if when Harden's healthy, if everyone else is healthy. Sacrifice to me is interesting. Kyrie Irving this year is shooting a career-high field goal attempts per game. Kevin Durant, in the games he's played, is shooting the most shots he has taken per game since he played for the Thunder. And James Harden was the guy who was sacrificing. He was 15 shots per game, which is the lowest he had had since he was on the Thunder as a role player, until KD went down. Since KD went down, he's 21 shots per game, which is right in line with most of his years in Houston. So nobody's really had to sacrifice. And I'm just curious to see how it's going to work because the guy of those three, I think everyone agrees, and this is not shade, it's just accurate, the worst of those players, even though he's a great player, is Kyrie. He's also the least equipped to sacrifice. And he's shooting more shots this year than he has any year of his career. Who is going to be the guy who takes the step back? And if the answer is Durant, I am telling you, that's the wrong answer. He's the second best player alive. You're not better by him doing less. And so that's what I want to.
That's what
I want to see. Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Can I? So this, okay, I understand the chemistry thing, but you keep talking about sacrifice. First off, they've already done that. And before they even took the court together and before the trade even happened, you have to believe, these three sat down and said, how are we going to do this? It's the same process that D-Wade, Chris Bosh had to go through. Now, the whole conversation was, well, these are three of the same guys. They need to have the ball in their hands. They're ball dominant guys. That was the conversation. But when you talk about sacrifice, don't you believe that Kevin Durant has the ultimate blueprint? Didn't they have to figure that out back in Golden State, out in the Bay? When you had Steph, you had Clay, you had Dre, you had himself, and then you had Iggy, you had all these other guys on the bench that came in and had to figure out, how do we do this together? So I understand that it seems like it's hard, but you got guys that are willing to say, you know what? James Harden is hot right now. James Harden is the MVP. That's what James Harden says. That's what a couple people are now coming around and starting to say. So Kevin Durant, he has to come in and say, you know what? He's the hot hand. We're going to roll with him. Same thing with Kyrie. Now you got KD coming back. You got James Harden on the bench. If KD comes in and he's balling, James Harden has to come in and he has to go back to where he was back in the 13th game of the season. And that's, you know what? I'm only taking 15 shots. And I'm the point guard, and I'm distributing, and I'm controlling the space, and I'm controlling the pace of the game. So this whole thing about sacrifice, I just think, there's really – they've already shown you that. And KD is the perfect example, Wilds, when it comes down to how to do that, because they did it in Golden State.
Okay, I believe that everyone's willing to sacrifice. I think it's easy to say I'm willing to sacrifice emotionally because I think everyone has something to prove. Harden wants to win more than everything. He needs it for his legacy. Kyrie wants to prove that he can win a championship without LeBron. KD wants to prove that he didn't need the Warriors to win a championship. They come together, they win a championship. The question for you is this, Antoine. Does their game allow them to sacrifice? Is there a point where you say, you know what, I need X amount of shots to get into my rhythm? We just saw Kyrie the other day against the Knicks. You could see the more he shot, the better he was. I don't know if he's the same Kyrie if he's taking 12 shots a game. Do you think that's an issue?
It could be an issue. Obviously, these guys are veteran guys and all-stars, so you think they'll be able to get through that. I think the biggest thing, and it goes back, I think chemistry plays a big part. They got to get some continuity of playing together. And also, you got to give Steve Nash a chance to figure out what lineups are going to be good.
Yeah.
How Blake Griffin, how LaMarcus Aldridge, how those guys are going to fit into what they got going on. And you can't do that with guys taking 4 and 5 games off at a time. Now you're running out of time. You need to get these guys on the floor together. Like I said, Harden is nursing the injury right now, which is fine. You're fighting for a number 1 seed. They have to get on the floor together. So I'm looking at, if I'm Brooklyn, it's still the 8-10 games left in the season. I want to be at full strength so I can play with my lineups, do different things, work on the chemistry, see what guys are going to be effective at, because you got to go to your bench a little bit. So it's a lot of things that are missing. They haven't been a team this year because you have 3 superstars and you add 2 other stars, you're able to be in first place. That's all that is. You've just been more talented than most people.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.